Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and children, and everyone, and welcome to the celebration of the life of Alison Cowan. Also, a special welcome to those who are live streaming, and I believe they are live streaming locally as well as overseas. My name is Irene Hardy, and it is a privilege and an honour to officiate this service today for such a beautiful, caring and fun-loving lady who had the best sense of humour and had a wonderful, wonderful outlook on life. And believe me, she enjoyed every minute of it. We have 4 candles placed at the front, and Daniel is going to come and light from the Christ candle. And those 4 candles, they represent Alison, her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. And these candles form a symbol of the light and the love that flow from God through to Alison, and that Alison shared with all her family. Thank you, Daniel. You're a good man. Friends, today we have come together because we loved Alison as a mum, as a mother-in-law, a nana and other nana, and a friend to many, many people. Here we will mourn her leaving us, honour her life and death, and reverently farewell her body and comfort one another. We come believing that all human life is valuable, that the truth and integrity and hopefulness that resides in each life lives on. We come believing that Alison's life, for which we celebrate today and for which we now experience great loss, is joined in the eternal continuum of human endeavour, stretching into the past and also into the future. Her life was lived with its uniqueness with us, and has now passed into the ultimate community of human existence. The gifts and graces that she offered are never lost to us. The creativity that she brought to us in her life and relationships lies now within our own lives and travels into the future with us. Our lives have been made more special because we lived with her and have travelled many lifelong friendships with her. We'll take a moment to pray, and for those who would prefer to just sit in silence, then that's fine as well. Let us pray. O God, at this moment, as we come face to face with death and our own mortality, we have many feelings as well as grief and possibly fear for the future. Please come close to us with your love and travel with us into this serious moment and open our hearts to one another. We ask this prayer in the name of Jesus the Christ, who faced his own death and the death of a friend. Amen. I'll now like to invite Richard Chapman to come forward, please. In your service sheets there is a wonderful hymn, and I know that it was one of Alison's favourites, How Great Thou Art. Thank you, Richard. Those who are able to stand, please do so.
Thank you.
Those who wish to, let us now share in the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. I would now like to invite Megan to come and read to us Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. Thank you, Megan.
Sorry. There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the sun. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace.
Thank you, Megan. I would like to now share with you some snippets of Alison's life, particularly her church life. The reading that was chosen for Alison's service today is quite appropriate, and I feel speaks a lot about Alison and the life that she lived. Whenever there was a need of assistance or another pair of hands, Alison was always ready to help. For many years, she supported an organisation called Crossroads, which was an organisation for people with disabilities, offering them an outing once a month. Members of the church cooked a 2-course meal and had entertainment for this group. Alison would collect some of these people and then take them home after the meal. I'm also led to believe that from time to time she received a special notice in the mail that the little car seemed to gather speed, especially going down a small slope. She was a member of the UCAF group for many, many years, holding the position of chairperson, and bring forth many different suggestions on how and where we should donate an offering to people who were in need. She took part in study groups as well, and discussions, always offering another opinion, which caused others, including myself, to rethink their own beliefs and their own views. And mind you, she didn't hold back either. So, in her earlier days in Burnie, she was a member of the church choir, and she took part in the World Day of Prayer services, which is held in March each year, and did that right up till last year. Alison was always willing to take part in services, assisting with setting up Holy Communion or readings. And on one occasion, we held a concert in the hall at the back of the church. And Alison came onto the stage pretending that she was in a shop fitting room. And she did a skit of trying on a bathing suit. It wasn't a pretty sight, but we all enjoyed her talent to get on stage and give us all a good laugh. A couple of years ago, she crocheted 100 red poppies with their little black centres, and that was to celebrate the end of World War I and 100 years for Remembrance Day. These were put on a sign of peace and was placed at the front of the church to celebrate this milestone. Alison was a mentor, a true friend, and always greeted you with a smile. And those beautiful blue eyes would twinkle like glistening sun shining on an ocean. As the years passed, Alison knew that the time had come to let go of most of her duties, but did not give up going to church every Sunday. We will miss her physical presence, of her sitting in her favourite chair up the front of the church, and I no doubt that we will all feel her spiritual presence, not just on Sundays, but whenever we remember her. Alison's time had come to rest her tired body. What a blessing she has been and always will be. I'd like to invite Andrew to come and read for us the writings. Remember a Smile. That's it.
Remember me with a smile, now my life on earth is done. My dreams have all been fulfilled and a new life has begun. Remember me with a smile when grief may cause you to weep. One day we will laugh again when our heavenly meeting we keep. Let's be thankful we shared good times. Keep the memories warm for a while. Let them bring peace to your heart and remember me with a smile.
We certainly will remember Alison with a smile. I'd like now to invite Bonnie to come up, please.
I will be reading a short text that Alison herself wrote. During her many, many decades at School for Seniors, she wrote a lot of creative and autobiographical texts, and this particular one this text speaks to the time that she found out that she was pregnant with my dad, Ian. The woman had expressed milk for the baby's evening feed and headed out with a friend to her annual extravagance. The Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra were performing tonight at the town hall. She looked forward to the relaxation of good music live. In spite of her anticipation, she was still restless, unable to settle her concerns aside completely. The reassurances from friends, family, and her doctor were outweighed by her own intuitive knowledge of her own body. However, she should know definitely tomorrow. She sat back and enjoyed Beethoven's 7th Symphony. At interval, the local policeman and his wife came up to chat. The wife discreetly called her aside. Yes, it was positive, said the policeman's nurse wife. Her world fell into a heap. 4 children under 4. She was unaware of the content of the remainder of the concert. At home, she broke the news. Her husband was delighted. He loved children. But then that workload didn't fall on him because he worked 7 days a week. The next morning, the morning sickness started, though it only lasted a week. She went and demanded a pregnancy test, an official one, and talked with the doctor about the possible whereabouts of the Grafenberg ring, the 4th failed contraceptive method. At least it was a short pregnancy, and the lovely baby boy was welcomed 4.5 months later. But no ring came with him. A subsequent hard-won X-ray showed the ring in a broad ligament. No problem, said the unperturbed surgeon. A small incision and we'll remove that for you in a few weeks' time. You'd better tie the tubes while you're in there, she said. Then he became agitated. You're too young. It's not fair to your husband. He might want more children later. What if he died and you remarried? It wouldn't be right. She remained adamant. Unless he was willing to tie her tubes, she would go elsewhere for all of the surgery. A surprising bluff in those days, with an 8-hour bus ride to Hobart, or a bus and a train ride to Burnie, which was not really considered then a major hospital by West Coasters. He talked to her husband, who supported her in her desire for guaranteed contraception. The surgeon gave in. That year she had a second 10-day holiday at the Lyell District Hospital.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'd now like to invite Douglas, if he would come and share some stories with us as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I should correct that. Good afternoon to everyone here and streaming locally. But as Irene alluded to, we do have people watching from afar, and I probably should acknowledge that we have people in Perth who it's still before midday, so good morning to the people in Perth. We have people in Dunedin watching from New Zealand, where it's around about 4 o'clock. So to them I say ahi ahi mai ere, which is a Maori good afternoon. And as we discussed, we have people who will be watching from Scotland. Now, over there it's 3 a.m, so I'm not quite sure whether we'd have people up at that time in the morning. You never know, the Scottish are a strange bunch. And they may well be up having a couple of drams of whiskey and watching this from a distance. Otherwise, they'll be watching later on in the morning, I'm sure. So to those joining us from high in the misty islands out by the Purple Islands, I say Martin Va, which is a Gaelic good morning to you. Look, it really is fantastic to have so many people here today and so many people on the live stream tuning in to watch and celebrate the life of Nana, Alison Cowan. It shows we have a really fitting tribute to who has been a remarkable woman, as attested by Irene and others you've heard today. She's had such a positive impact on so many people over 92 years of life. It's going to be really hard to sum all that up in such a short period. So it's just lovely that you're all here, you're all watching online, and we can celebrate that life together. It really is a reason to celebrate. So despite being a lover of all things Scottish, and many people assuming that Nana was from Scotland, she wasn't, as most of you are well aware. She was born in Dunedin, New Zealand on the 7th September in 1932, after her parents, Eric and Gwendolyn Mack, emigrated there from London a few years earlier during the 20s. She was born Florence Alison Mack, very different to the name you see up on the screen there today. She was named after her mother's longtime friend Flo Foley, whose house she was born in Dunedin, and who, Colleen tells me, travelled across from London with Gwendolyn during the 20s, so a family friend and born in the house as occurred back in those days. So born Florence, but from a very early age her parents decided she was Alison, and I think we can all attest to if anyone witnessed Nana being called Florence, you knew very well that that was not her name. She was most definitely Alison. She grew up in Dunedin. She went to Sunday school at the Roslyn Presbyterian Church. So from a very early age she was committed to the church life, and she continued that relationship from that time at Sunday school at the Presbyterian all the way through to only a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, when she attended the Uniting Church. And as most of you are aware, Presbyterian merged and became with other denominations and became the Uniting, and Nana stuck out with that all the way through. And I should say a lot of what I'm telling you today comes from her own writings. We found she took some time a few years ago to pen her thoughts on what was important to her in her life. So I'm recounting to you some of the things that Nana found important. She loved taking part in Sunday school, in the concerts that they had there, the singing, Bible class and camps. She went on to Mornington Primary School in Dunedin, so that was during the war years, and then on to Otago Girls High School in the late 40s. In 1950, as an 18-year-old, she worked at the Kaikarai Valley Kindergarten, where she taught for a little while as an assistant, and she was also teaching at the Sunday school at that time. And I think so some of her teaching that came on later in life was, from an early age, she was liked being in front of a room and educating people. She then started her general nursing training at the Dunedin Public Hospital in 1951. So that was the start of her nursing career, which was to take her all the way through her professional life. A couple of years later, Dennis Cowan came onto the scene. My granddad, Dennis, had travelled to Melbourne initially to visit his brother Charles, Uncle Charlie, who had emigrated there and to find work and was living in Melbourne at the time. And as I understand it, he used the opportunity to, after having fought in World War II, to travel a bit and see the world on his motorbike. A Triumph, was it, Marcus? Yep, a Triumph motorbike that he loved and did a lot of travelling with. And he ended up in New Zealand, travelling around New Zealand on that motorbike. And I understand he came a cropper on the motorbike, crashed, and in classic Florence Nightingale style, he ended up in the Dunedin Hospital, where he became infatuated with the nurse that was treating him, and I believe the feelings were mutual, but you probably would never have Nana admit that. So while she tried to shake the Florence name from an early age, it did come in handy at that particular time. So a relationship began to blossom from that point on. But I imagine Dennis must have been a little surprised when Alison told him that she was going to head across to London to do some more training. In 1952, she boarded the Shaw Seville's Mataroa. She sailed to London via the Panama Canal, where she started part one of her midwifery training at the St Giles Hospital in Camberwell Green in London. So, leaving Dennis behind in Dunedin, which was might have been interesting for Dennis, I imagine. She spent the next 12 months in London experiencing all that that city has to offer. She visited relatives, she studied for the midwifery training, she passed the exams, and then she spent the summer in the Lakes District, which she wrote about quite fondly, remembering her time in that period, in that location. And she worked at a cafe in Penrith called the Little Brown Jug. In the middle of 1955, she moved on to Edinburgh, and she gained work there nursing again in the chest unit at the Eastern General Hospital. She was visiting the Cowans, so the relationship was still thriving from over a long distance, visiting the Cowan family in Scotland and experiencing that lovely country. And then out of nowhere, suddenly Dennis appears. He'd surprised her by travelling across and meeting her in Scotland to make an impact. It was a good move by him because they were engaged shortly afterwards to be married there in Scotland. So not long after that, they returned to New Zealand. I don't know why, but Alison travelled separately by boats, and Dennis flew shortly afterwards. She sailed on the Southern Cross, again via the Panama Canal, picking up the West Indies cricket team on the way, and getting all the autographs from the 1955 Windies cricket team, which would have been pretty significant. I think you've still got it out there somewhere in the house, and probably worth a bit of money and some interesting signatures, I would have thought. So once back in New Zealand, Dennis put a proposition to Alison. His brother Charlie had moved to Queenstown and had found work at Mount Lyell. Mount Lyell was recruiting heavily and offering really good packages for workers, skilled workers to come down. Housing was paid for, schools, lots of families were moving into Queenstown as the mining boom hit, and Charlie was already there. So Dennis put it to Alison. As I understand it, Alison was a little reluctant, but she agreed to 18 months. I'll go there for 18 months, she said. That was the deal. So they got married first. So on the 12th of May in 1956, still in Dunedin, just before they left, they were married, and they jumped on the Taiping Yang and sailed to Burnie, train to Zeehan, a bus from Zeehan to Queenstown. They met Uncle Charlie and Auntie May, and I imagine as they drove into town, Nana would have said, "What the hell have I done here?" Everyone that's been to Queenstown knows it's a little shock when you come down the hill. And on 12th of August, so that's 12th of May they got married, they sailed straight across to and arrived in Queenstown, and on the 12th of August of that year, their first child, my mum Leela, Jean, was born. A miracle baby, obviously very premature, having only a 3-month gap between her birth and the wedding, so you do the math on that one. So 3 more children arrived over the next 4 years, as Bonnie talked about. There was Colleen in December 1957, there was Blocker in 1958, 9, I get that wrong every time, and then baby Ian came along in 1960, and we just heard about her experiences in that she shut up shop straight after that. When you've achieved perfection, you know to move on. Yeah. So 4 kids under 4, pretty significant in a remote West Coast town. 4 years after she said she was only going to be there for 18 months. We heard in her own writing that there were some challenges with that, but she had great friends, as Alison was able to do. She made great friends. She was part of the community. She had close family living nearby with Uncle Charlie and Auntie May, living 2 doors down, eventually in Murray Street, and their children, John, Chaz and Digger. And Murray Street was I imagine, just a kid's playground for those years. When the children went off to school, Alison went back to work, taking part-time jobs such as a night telephonist. So the old switchboard operators that would patch you through with your little cables before my time, but I've seen it on TV. And as a radio announcer at 7QT, which obviously went on, inspired her great-grandchildren, Andy and Dan, to take on similar careers. And for those that don't know, Dan is a well-known part of the duo Dan and Christie on Hit 100.9 in Hobart, very popular breakfast show, and I think Andy's might be doing something similar on dabbles a little. Alison also worked as a family planning advisor back at that time, so which I laughed when I heard. I hadn't heard the story, but obviously her experience about what not to do was she was able to pass on to those people that needed that advice. She would visit schools and give lectures on family planning back in the late 60s, early 70s, I'm guessing. And poor Colleen, and probably my mum as well, and I don't know if Ian was probably too young, but were the butt of jokes in the school ground when mum would come along and tell the boys in the class about condoms and safe sex, and poor old Colleen would be cornered later on in the playground and asked for more condoms. A little embarrassing. Colleen was mortified. Is that fair? But I can imagine Alison doing it, straight-faced and very professional, and very caring and very concerned about other people not making the same mistakes she made. In the early 70s, Alison returned to her passion of nursing, taking on a full-time position with community health on the West Coast. She remained there for the next 20 plus years from that time through, And it was a real achievement for her. She built that West Coast Community Health Centre into a viable and really valuable service to that community. She was really proud of her contribution. I remember talking to her about it. I remember as a kid visiting her in her office down there at Queenstown just before she retired. When she retired at 1992 at age 60, she was a highly regarded and respected manager of that unit who was missed by the community when she moved on. Over that period in Queenstown though, before that, she saw all her children find partners, get married and move on to start their own lives. Grandchildren were produced. Leela moved to Adelaide, so we moved across to Adelaide. Colleen and Marcus moved up to Burnie, Ian and Margaret to Hobart, and eventually Blocker and Karen to Penguin as well, for where they started their family. Sadly, in 1987, at age 62, Dennis was diagnosed with lung cancer and passed away, leaving Alison a widow at age 55, which was a big hole in her life, big hole in the lives of the children and the extended family. He was a big character that really was important to the family, so that was a real blow. While life was never quite the same, Alison was a very strong and resilient person, and she's perfectly capable of her own independence and forging her own path. She continued to work, and she continued to push hard and live a really long and fulfilling life. She was quite comfortable in her own skin. She was a social person. She loved the company of other people, but she was very fiercely independent as well. So we're back to 1992. The year is 1992. It's 36 years after she said she was going to spend 18 months in Queenstown. She finally left Queenstown and moved to Burnie as a retiree. But she wasn't going to spend retirement sitting down. She filled her retirement with lots and lots of activities, and Irene's touched on a number of those. She pursued all her interests and hobbies and made sure she was really connected and contributing still to the community. She joined the Burnie School for Seniors. She soon took on the role of secretary, which she continued for the next 25 years, and I think we have senior school people here today, School for Seniors people here today. She organised events, guest speakers and activities to keep minds and bodies engaged and active. Often she would step up to be a presenter at the school, and she would deliver presentations on her favourite topics such as Robbie Burns, the River Clutha, New Zealand, plays, musicals, famous Scottish tenors, her own writings. Such was her contribution that she was awarded life membership of that school in 2004. I remember I was still in Burnie at the time. She seemed busier than when she was at work in those first few years. She really involved herself in everything. She was, as I say, she delivered Meals on Wheels. She served in the Lifeline kiosk. She played indoor bowls. And she maintained a lifelong interest in sewing and knitting. As kids and as grandkids, we all received booties and the usual clothing that Nana would knit for us. As I remember, as kids, we'd get jumpers and things like that, and we'd awkwardly say thank you and then put them in the back cupboard, never to be seen again. But it was a lovely thought. She was very talented, but kids, aren't into wool nowadays. She quilted, cross-stitched, and made lampshades. She dabbled in writing for her own amusement, and was quite accomplished, as Bonnie attests. She had a computer and a Facebook account. She was a very early adopter of technology and modern technology, and she managed her Facebook account and her computer, and she was adamant that she was going to keep up with that technology, mobile phone and all that. Wasn't very good at it, but she maintained it. And she was an active member of the Uniting Church, attending every week, involving herself in fundraising and social activities for decades, as Irene has said. She made many dear and long-lasting friendships, and that's evident here today. I do have to mention Mavis Rowlands, who was a particularly dear and close friend to Nana over a long time and provided her really good support over the last few years, particularly as her health started to decline, so thank you, Mavis. And we're very lucky to have another dear friend in Irene here today, and I apologise for not mentioning others. I know there's some people that have been very close to Nana over the years. One of her favourite things to do was English country dancing, I should say, every Monday, was it, for years? For years she did it every Monday. In fact, when I was up over Christmas, she said she was doing it again on Monday. I think she was a little confused. She was still attending functions and things, but not quite dancing in the last period. She also loved jazz music, and for many years enjoyed attending concerts in Latrobe, Devonport and all over the countryside. And this was a really special interest she shared with her grandchildren, Bess and Bonnie, and Nick. I understand Nick went to the odd jazz concert as well, but I know Bess and Bonnie spent a lot of time going to jazz concerts and musicals and plays and whatever was on. And I know that Nana really enjoyed that time, and you guys did too, and got a lot out of it. Memories to be cherished forever. Sadly, over this time, there was more loss in Nana's life. Her grandson, my younger brother Joel, sadly passed away at age 23 in 2006 from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and this really shook Nana. She saw it as incredibly unfair that a young person would be taken away while she still had life. I remember she said she lost a dear sister, Ines, in 2011, also to cancer. Ines was a beautiful person, bubbly and happy and a joy to be around. We'll see some photos of her that will give you that clear picture. She remains really close and proud of her nephews David, Lindsay and Peter and their families, who I believe are watching on the stream, and would regularly travel across New Zealand to visit the family and entertain the family when they came across to visit. So that relationship was really important. She also had to bury two of her own children as well in recent years, my mum Leela in 2018 to cancer again, and the favourite, the pink eye blocker, only in late 2023, again cancer. What a horrible disease. Despite these tragic events, increasing physical frailty from Nana and some relatively minor ailments, she wasn't ever really sick, was she? She only really had minor problems, or at least that's what she told us. She remained active and interested in life right up until her final days. In December, she attended the Christmas parties for the church, dancing and school for seniors. So it was only a few weeks ago that she was still attending these functions. When I last saw her, she proudly demonstrated that she could stand on one leg. I don't know why. She just decided she wanted to show me. And we were very worried. I thought we were going to have a broken hip or something, but she stood up and she stood on one leg and showed me how agile she was. That was late December. She was adamant that ailing health would not hold her back right till the end. On the day she died, or the day before, she was still making jokes with the nurses and doctors, and she still had her wits about her, very, very aware of what was going on and making jokes and making them laugh. She was stoic in the way she dealt with anything that was wrong. Right, time for a bit of dirt. I know we're getting close to the end. Nana was good at most things, but she was a terrible cook. I lived with her for a period of time, and so I can speak to this confidently. She had no sense of smell. If you're not aware, she was born without a sense of smell. So she couldn't tell if something was off or not. And often we would open the fridge and nearly fall over with the smell. And unfortunately, Nana would sometimes add some of those ingredients into the cooking, and it was bad. So you took a big risk when you ate at Nana's house. Another time you took your life into your own hands was if you got in the car with her behind you. And we heard that earlier with the car rolling down the ramp. Terrible driver. She drove by feel more so than sight. Each of her cars have dings on pretty much every corner where she just uses the gutters to find her way around town. And we all breathed a bit of a sigh of relief, didn't we, when she finally got an automatic, because she may have driven a manual all her life, but I don't think she ever learnt to drive a manual. The clutch was worn out. The second gear sounded horrible. She would put it into second gear and then forget and just keep driving around all day in that gear. Terrible, terrible driver. And the final bit of dirt, which I'm sure most people know about, is that she was a stalker, a legitimate stalker. All the movies, all the books you've read about stalking, Nana is the epitome of stalking. She was persistent, fixated, and a little bit scary. Kenneth McKellar is someone she had a lifelong obsession with. She has all of his records, tapes, CDs, videos, and even an old reel-to-reel tape. She sent cards to him for Christmas and birthdays every year, and she refused to concede the existence of his wife. If her wife was mentioned, she shut the conversation down. And when he toured New Zealand and Australia, she would follow him to all of his concerts. She would approach him to talk to him after the show. He knew her, she knew him. When you've got a stalker, you know who it is. I remember Nana even dragged us all along to a concert down in Hobart. So she paid for tickets for this whole crew here and dragged us all down to Hobart to watch him perform. And he was pretty impressive. But when you're dragging your whole family into your stalking, it's a little bit of a worry. Her most prized possession is a recording sent from Kenneth McKellar to her after she retired in 1992, and she was it's her most prized possession. When he died in 2010, Nana sent condolences and she received a thank you note from the daughter. So that was probably the first sign that maybe there's no restraining order on the way. She was the definition of a super fan. Some thought it was cute, we thought it was a bit creepy. I think I've done all I can to sum up the life of Alison Cowan, my Nana. I'm sure I've missed something. I'm sure there are people out there with other stories that I've missed, and I've missed something important in terms of family, but it is very difficult in a short period of time to sum up 92 years of someone who's so busy and someone who's so connected to so many people. Before closing, I would like to read a message that's been sent through from Margaret, Ian's wife, Margaret Cowan in Hobart, who couldn't be here today. I'm going to read this verbatim. I'm Margaret, Alison's daughter-in-law. I'm devastated that I cannot honour her life and mourn her death by being here today, as I'm living with motor neurone disease. I've known Alison as a beautiful mother for 45 years. She was a 1950s feminist, bravely raising 4 children under 4, for a time feeling isolated in a remote country town, far from her family of origin. I admired her incredibly. She was the mother of my husband Ian, her baby, and an excellent public speaker. Her writings on factual and creative narratives of her life proved her to be a remarkable writer. Her life lived through these writings, and as I read them, they brought me to tears in awe. God bless you, Alison. He is waiting for you. The pipes are calling. I will love you always. Love, Margaret. Thank you, Margaret. That's a beautiful tribute. Alison Cowan was a remarkable woman. She was curious, intelligent, witty, benevolent, and hardworking. She was pragmatic but kind. She loved all her family dearly, and she wanted nothing but the best for all of us. She was an inspiration to me personally and a big influence on the person I've become today. I know she's had a positive impact on all who knew her, all her family and friends, all of you here today, and to those who've passed before us. Congratulations, Nana, on a life well lived. Better load ye canna be, in the words of Kenneth McKellar and others. Time for a rest. On behalf of the family, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for the support you've shown the family in the last few days. Thank you for all the support you've provided Nana over the years, but particularly the support you've shown the family recently. I know Colleen and Marcus, while I was there, people turning up on the doorstep with food, cards, messages, been inundated with support, and that's fantastic. It's an indication of the person Alison was and the children that she has raised, the support that they've got the community. Really, really, really appreciated. And we thank you. Special thanks to Irene for her work today as a celebrant, and to Parkside for their support. There'll be refreshments afterwards, and we do just hope you can hang around and talk to us and remind me of some stories that I might have missed. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas, and well done, put together. I know she would be very proud of you today. And we will now, after hearing all the stories, we will see a photo presentation. Thank you.
Will ye trusted in your healing men. They trusted you, dear Charlie. They kent your hiding in the glen. Death or exile braving. Will ye no come back again? Will ye no come back again? Better Lord ye cannot be. Will ye no come back again? Sweet the laverock's note and lang, lilting wildly up the glen, but aye to me he sings ye sang. Will ye no come back again? Will ye no come back again? Will ye no come back again? Better Lord ye cannot be. Will ye no come back again? Will ye no come back again? Will ye no come back again? Better Lord ye cannot be. Will ye no come back
Friends, we have heard, we have read, we have sung and watched and reflected on Alison's life. I encourage you to hold these memories close in your hearts, because no one can take them away from you. Alison, all these things and more you have given to us. We respect your journey through life with all its realities. We pray that you will travel safely in this next part of your journey, and our love goes with you. Thanks be to God for the gifts we have received of this person, and thanks be to God for a life lived with faith, courage, honesty and determination. A life well lived and a life lived well. As we come to the moment of farewell, a part of our grief may be regret for things left undone, for words said or never said, or moments that never happened. Friends, this is the time to lay aside all those regrets and to honour the spirit of Alison herself, who would never want them carried into our future. Let us take a moment of silence and receive that gift of generosity from Alison and also the forgiveness of God. To love someone is to risk the pain of parting. Not to love is never to have lived. The grief that we now experience is the honouring of our love. Let us now, in a quiet moment again, make our own personal farewell to Alison. Alison, go in peace, fly free into universal life, held safe in the hollow of God's loving hands. Soar with joy on the winds of heaven and celebrate with lightness of heart all that has been and all that is to come. Join the vivid colours of the rainbow and spread the wings of your spirit in freedom. Then hover low over those who have loved you and touch our lives kindly with your gentle heart. Friends, we are nearing the completion of the service today, and as Douglas has said, that the family invite you to stay for refreshments and please share some stories, because they are the memories that they need to hold on to help them through these next few days and weeks and months and probably years. So we will now commend Alison's body. And reading from John's Gospel, chapter 14, 1-4. Jesus gives comfort to his disciples, but also to us as well. He said to them, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. I am going to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. You know where I am going, and you know the way." With that assurance, we commend Alison's body to the tender hands of God and into the loving arms of her family, whom have gone before her. We now commit Alison Cowan's body to the elements that are gentle to us at the time of our death. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. In the cycle of life and death, the earth is replenished and life is eternally renewed. I'd like now to invite the family to place flowers on Alison's coffin.
Sweetly played in tune, a spell of thou my bonny lust, see deep in love am I, and I will love dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. So fare thee well, my only love, oh, fare thee well a while, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 miles, though 'twere 10,000 miles, my love, though 'twere 10,000 miles, and I will come again, my love, though 'twere 10,000 Every road through life is a long, long road, filled with joys and sorrows too. As you judge
Friends, even as we grieve this loss, let us commit ourselves to the comfort of those who will miss her most. To Colleen and Marcus, Ian and Margaret, Doug, Damien, Andy, Dan, Jordan, Megan, Bess, Nick and Bonnie, other Nan of Cade, Jack, Emily, Thomas, Molly, Ray, Isabel, Maddie and Taya, and many, many friends. Let us surround them with our love and pray for the comfort of God. Now let us go into the world, glad that we have loved, free to weep for Alison as mum, mother-in-law, Nana and other Nana, knowing that her physical presence is no longer with us, but her spiritual presence will always be within us. Let us feel free to hold one another in our human frailty, empowered to live life to the full as did Alison, and to affirm the hope of human existence. Let us now go in hope, because Alison would want us to do that. Let us go to add good and justice to the life of the world around us. And may God hold us all in the hollow of a loving hand, the peace of God reach out and touch you, and the Spirit of God bring us all comfort and peace. Amen. Please stand.
with wealth and love 'tis so, but onward we must go. Keep right on to the end. the road. Keep right on to the end. Though the way be long, let your heart be strong. Keep right on round the bend. Though you're tired and weary, still journey on till you come to your happy abode. Where all you love you've been dreaming of will be there at the end of the road. With a big stout heart to a long steep hill, we may get there with a smile. With a good kind thought and an end in view, we may cut short many a mile. So let courage every day be your guiding star always. Keep right on to the end of the road. Keep right on to the end. Though the way be long, let your heart be strong. Keep right on round the bend. Though you're tired and weary, still journey on till you come to your happy abode.